Good morning. Just sitting out here in the mountains, and first time I really wanted to be on video, so in a while. I haven't wanted to. I needed some time away. Didn't really realize that until I went to Spain, and I'm back now. By the way, sitting in the mountains. I'll give you a little preview. And just starting to really come off of my trip over to Spain. Not really come off of, just having a lot more clarity. I had a lot of things that I didn't know I was going to deal with come up. But I learned so much in my time that absolutely incredible. In some regards, I would almost say I shouldn't have went because of my situation now, but it was also, I would tell you that it was imperative that I went. And I'll talk more about the trip later, but I'm going to talk more about what I've learned and why I haven't been on camera, why I haven't shared anything, why I've been in solitude. Some of these things that I have been pressing on me, these things that are part of my suicide ideology, some of the biggest things that I think are the biggest things that are part of my suicide ideology, that because I'm still faced with it. Just to be honest with people, I still struggle with suicide. I mean, and there are some days it's worse than others, and it's a different form now. It's not out of rage, it's not out of anger, it's that I'm actually at peace. My whole system's at peace. The unfortunate thing I feel like is that I'm extremely tired, and it's taken me a very long time to get where I'm at, and it's been an immense amount of hard knocks and loss, and so I'm weary on the journey. But what I did learn, I was able to put my rage to rest. I was able to see it differently and approach it differently, and now walk hand in hand with it and nurture it differently. So, a beautiful thing for me, because even though I'm struggling right now, even though there's struggles in my life, even though I'm facing some very difficult things, I'm very, very much at peace. I learned to step back away from time, and the constraints it has here, and be present, which has been amazing, because my system tends to be on hyperactive mode and wanting to go, especially now that my mental health, my depression is not severe and it doesn't debilitate me anymore. So what Spain did, and somebody I met in Spain taught me, was that one of the mottos or sayings that we came up in the 5 days that we were together was that we have all the time in the world. As long as you stay present, time is irrelevant in a lot of ways. And that also plays into my practices, and that's meditation, and that's becoming more intense. And I shouldn't say intense. It is becoming more desired by me, because I'm at peace. And now what I learned I learned a lot, was how to sit with my struggle, the very thing that I'm struggling with in the moment, and really start asking the important questions of, why do I feel the way I feel? And some people would call that triggering, but when those emotions come up where, especially in rejection, abandonment, loneliness, all these things that are at the surface. And that's what loneliness is, one of the big things that came to my table this time around, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I learned to really sit with my issue at hand and really analyze, not analyze, but ask myself the right question to get the answer that heals my mind. And heals my perspective. And just asking myself the important questions, and why do I feel that way? And why do you think that is true? And so as I do this, as I ask these questions, I can start honestly answering. Because one of my things is I want to be humble and have integrity and live in truth. And that is my own respect for myself. So hopefully that always plays outward, but that is how I want to live in my own life for me. And that is one of the other things that I learned, is learning how to respect myself in a way that, well, it actually sets the standard for who I will let hurt me and how much I will let them hurt me. And I say hurt me because we tend to hurt the people we love that are closest to us, even unintentionally. That's the way it plays out. So, and that's where it's not a boundary for me, it's a respect level for myself, and how flexible I allow an individual to push on that in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I'm going through that right now, and I'm like, okay, so there's some things that I look at that I don't hold them accountable for, but there's evidence that I'm saying, okay, that's pushing my, like, I feel uneasy, not necessarily abandoned, but second. I feel second. That's what it is. And I don't want to feel second with any of my friends in my life. If it's the outside circle, that's perfect. Inside that, I don't want to feel that way. So it's really establishing now how it's not even setting a boundary for them, or hard boundary for them, or it's setting that, like, when do I allow myself to walk in a different direction? That's actually a good way to put it. I always call it walking away, but I don't need to walk away. I just need to walk in a different direction for myself. That's a good way to put that. I like that. I've learned to really, this is one of the most important things that I've discovered how to do, as uncomfortable as it is, to sit with myself and really start sweeping my house clean, so that I learn to love myself. It's not just about respecting myself, it's about loving myself well. And two of the things that have been on my plate, especially the last few months, I have been struggling with loneliness. And I don't generally struggle with loneliness. And I think after being single for 7 years now, not really dating, not really having no physical love in the last several years, and I think I'm trying to unpack this right now, so forgive me, but because I'm just kind of realizing this, I think my mind is saying that I'm ready. I don't know, but loneliness has been pushing on me, and I'm in the mountains. I came to solitude to be lonely, to sit with it, and for 2 weeks I've been sitting with it, almost 2 weeks, with little progress. But I have discovered, and I didn't have the space for this before Spain. I didn't have the space for this before I put the anger down, the shame down, the frustration, the time. I wasn't capable of really realizing how powerful being alone and feeling alone your whole life. And this goes back to my childhood, and my few memories of standing on the playground and not having any friends, and being alone, and then that transferring throughout my life. And every time I'm in a crowd, I feel alone. Every time I'm with people, I feel alone. Every time I'm by myself, I feel alone. And then there are those times when people enter your life, and you don't feel alone. You feel accepted, loved, seen. Not fully. I think I've only had that feeling once, and that's been recently. And that, just actually being that people seeing me and me understanding that has only been recent. I think people throughout my life at different times have seen the gifts that I have, although I did not. Forgive me. Pardon. I don't think that's what that means. Lo siento. So, one of the biggest things that, even though I've had little progress moving forward, I'm very much at peace. Even though I'm in a major struggle, I'm very much at peace. That's the crazy thing. I put my anger to rest, and I'll explain that a little bit more, because it's not gone. It's just it doesn't carry the same weight as it did. It doesn't have the same power in my life as it did. Just an example. I'm a fighter. Like, I grew up fighting, grew up on the streets, with, not afraid to go and do that. But I don't like doing it. And I always hated being angry. I always hated being enraged. I always hated being on fight or flight, especially when I'm on the streets, and especially when I'm in the city. It's like going into Chicago, and you go 2 blocks one way or the other, and you take a risk of getting mugged, or shot, or worse. I mean, it's just. But in Spain, it's very safe, and I don't have those same. That fight or flight is not there. So I was learning to, in my time in Spain, I was learning to let go of my anxieties of worrying about the future, worrying about the story that I'm putting on something, worrying about the possibilities of something happening, the anticipation of the future that I didn't even know I was carrying. So that's what I learned in Spain. a few things, but that important, because we're going to go to the next part of that. And that is, I went to Ireland because of the person that I met. I went to Cork, Ireland. Cork. Went to Cork. And while I was in Cork, the Irish are a lot like the Americans. They're very tense. They carry a level of uptightness, just like Americans do. We're afraid. We don't look each other in the eye. We don't say hi very often. We don't hug. We don't kiss each other on each cheek to welcome each other. We're very, very apprehensive. And even though the Irish are, I believe, they're very nice people, especially when they're drinking, until they get too drunk. Then they like to fight. But they have that same apprehensiveness that Americans do. So I'm walking in the downtown city center on a weekend night in Cork, and I can feel it because I grew up on the streets, and I can feel that level of uncomfortableness that's not in Spain. And I'm like, okay, but I'm super calm, I'm super at peace. And the person that I met, they taught me that you don't worry about something until it happens. I'm like, wow, okay. But what about danger? Well, you don't worry about danger till it happens. You don't have to be hyper aware all the time, Britain. And that's where I started. I was walking down the street. I thought it was super funny. I was having a good time. Had a few drinks. Just went to a concert. Walking down the street, this Irish kid in his mid-20s walks out of this restaurant in his short little girlfriend walks right out and smacks right in the back of him. And I just chuckle. Kind of like that. And he goes, "You got a problem, boy?" And I can't help but keep laughing. But normally, my fight or flight response is drop gloves and go. And I just keep going, and I'm just like, no, buddy, no worries, man. And it dawned on me that I had the ability and the power to move away from something, which I know this. I'm just saying in a profound way where my anger normally takes over, I had the ability to say, no, I'm good, and keep moving, and not let it affect me, not let it trigger me, not let it invoke that feeling of that fight or flight, that, danger. Danger still hadn't happened. So why let it in? And that was a pretty profound moment for me, because the people I was with, or at least the one person, knew me well enough to know that while meeting, I'm willing to go toe to toe, because I was willing to go toe to toe with somebody that they had met and was being not very nice. And that was in Spain. But that changed for me. That flipped for me. So now what I also learned was, especially in Spain, I learned this in Madrid. I was sitting on the rooftop of my hostel, and the sun was going down. I had the whole thing to myself. This whole terrace, and beautiful, and watching the sunset. And I had this vision of my rage, and realized it's just the boy that is hurt, and see it differently now. Now I get to walk hand in hand with that. Now I get to, one of the things I discovered, and this is what I discovered about loneliness, is it goes I need to love my rage until it loves itself. And so when it comes up and when it tries to, when it feels hurt, when that, I don't know how to explain this, but this is what I kind of discovered. This boy that is hurt, his rage is where this comes from. Is when this boy is hurt, this young me, because it's not my true nature. It's the reaction to protect myself as a kid, and it transferred throughout the course of my life, and it just became responsible for it at some point, and it controlled my life. And now it's this thing inside me that just needs to be loved until it can love itself and stop seeing itself in the way that it does, and with worthlessness and loneliness and abandonment and these very, very powerful, worthy of abuse, and not worthy of anything. And that's the rage that has sat inside me for so long that's no longer true. And so it's the same thing with loneliness. I am going to sit with my loneliness until that boy that sees nothing but emptiness learns to love himself and understand that I'm here to love him as well. It sounds so weird to me, but I guess that's what I discovered. So why not share it? And I was starting to realize that I have all these different characters. I don't have multiple personalities, just different characters in my life of emotion that have been hurt. And then they're all young, this young boy, about 5 years old. And I see him in different settings. I have a room that I go to in my head when I feel hurt. And that's the boy. And then there's a place where I feel empty and there's nothingness, and there's a place of darkness that I sit as a boy. And all these things coincide and intertwine. But loneliness has been, I think, one of my biggest catalysts to suicide. And I realized that after I peeled off the things that were covering it up. I didn't realize this. And not having that familia and that bond, and always feeling that way from a boy and then transferring that into my adult life. And so how do I solve that? I don't know. Just love it till it loves itself, and learn that that's not, it's not that I'm worthy of loneliness. It's that I'm capable of loneliness, I think that's the transference of that. And what I mean by I'm worthy of loneliness is I deserve it. And that's not true. But I am capable of loneliness because my house is clean now. And my home is wherever I am. And that's the other thing I learned through this friend of mine, a Spanish woman. I was like, how are you, because she travels the world. And I was like, how do you do this? And you make connections and make all these, but she's like, I'm happy with who I am. I'm at home wherever I am. And it just made me realize that I needed to finish sweeping out the cobwebs of my life, and keeping my house clean, because my house is my sanctuary. Wherever I am, I want to be in my sanctuary. But I also want to invite people into that and then give that back. So, that's what, the other struggles that is the big one that obviously was, now is put on my plate. I should say it's not obvious, but is, what is my worth? And it's not a monetary value. And I've been sitting with this because it's a tough one. I don't have language for it. Well, I didn't have language for it. But now I'm developing that language. by sitting with it, by saying, what is worth? What does that mean? What does that look like? What is, is it a monetary value? I don't think so. It's, but what I'm reluctant to share this because I'm not sure this is the right time, but it's not a description of myself. And I know there's a definition. I looked it up and I can't remember what it is. It probably doesn't have anything to do with what, but maybe it does. It's not a description of who you are, how you act, or anything like that. I think what it's coming down to, or this is what I'm working out, is that I have wisdom. I think that's my worth. But not just wisdom. I have the ability to deliver that wisdom in a way that helps people. And it's hard for me to look at worth because I've never been validated as worthy. I don't have language for it, so I'm developing this as I go, as I sit with it, as I try to really heal my mind and move in a direction that I'm here for a beautiful life. And I feel that. I feel that because I'm staying present. So, but I haven't really fully developed the language for worth. But those, I'm loving. I have so much to give back. I have kindness. I have, and that's part of my true nature. So is that my worth? Well, I guess that's my next question. But I don't know. Got any ideas on that? Chime in. Not on my worth, on your own worth, or what worth means to you. But yeah, loneliness and then worth have been probably my two biggest, unknowingly, my two biggest catalysts for suicide. I thought it was rage because it cost me everything. I thought it was shame because shame developed into rage. And these are true, and they are contributors, but I don't think they're the core. I don't think they're the root of the tree that I am, the tree of emotions that I am. And that's, I think these are the big chunks of the root, the big heart of the root here. And that is that I've always felt lonely. I've never felt like I belonged. I never had this positive. I was always the last kid picked. I was bullied. I was, the whole story. And then when you're lonely, you have that abandonment and then not being worthy. And so I was like, okay, these things coincide and they hold hands, and they're both very heavy and dangerous. And so the answer to both of those is, one, sit with the loneliness. Two, develop language for worth. And hopefully it's, through meditation, through prayer, it becomes a humble view of worth. And I think that's possible. I just don't have language for it. That's why I realized about rage. I didn't have language for it. I didn't have language to stop being angry. I didn't have language to stop being in rage. And now I have language. And I have understanding. And I don't know that I need to get to that's the thing I discovered. I don't know that I need to get to the root of the very cause of something. Maybe I do. I always thought I did. I was always chasing that. But now the more that I just sit with a problem, that hard, long-term stuff seems to be unfolding at a rapid rate. And just by doing simple breathing exercises, keeping myself present, not letting that pit in my stomach overtake me, but really learning to breathe and be present with myself, being happy with myself, being very comfortable in my sanctuary, being able to go out on my own damn porch and sit with myself. This is my porch, by the way. Just so FYI, this is my porch. And that's what I'm going to do today. And, it's taken me a couple weeks to get here, but it's a couple weeks worth it, because I'm so at peace that it's so weird, because my internal body is not reacting the same. Even though my mind and my body are starting to catch up to each other, starting to coincide with each other. And I think that was the point of Cork, was my mind, I don't want to fight. I'm done fighting. I hate fighting. I'm too old to fight. It's physically, emotionally, all of it. I'm tired of it. I don't have the strength for it. It weighs too much on me. So, which is also a respect thing for me and the people I have in my life. And if they cause turmoil and tumultuous events, yell at me for no reason, accuse me of things, then I don't want them in my life. I'd rather be alone with me, because I like me. I don't need people to degrade me, disrespect me, call me names, cuss me out, in order for them to make them feel better because they feel like they deserve something. I don't do that to my friends, and I don't want my friends doing that to me. So recently I had to walk away from somebody that was doing that to me, and I would rather be alone with me than be with somebody like that, because it's their own pain being taken out on everybody they love. It's not just me. And that's what I told him. I was like, you do this to everybody that tries to love you, and I don't have the room for it. So, whether they learn from that is, well, unlikely at this point. But there's hope for all of us. So, learning to walk away from people was part of that respect. How far did I let somebody push that respect boundary that I have for myself? This one cost me dearly. It cost me greatly. Financially, it cost me greatly to allow this person to push that respect boundary. I also learned that I should never be at the mercy of somebody else, because then they feel like they have the right to do things that are not their right. And so, valuable lessons. I have no animosity, no anger, just they don't deserve to be part of my life. And I mean that. Like, I deserve good people in my life. I deserve to be around people that empower me and encourage me, and that will call me out and will tell me truths and have a conversation instead of a yelling match, instead of a pointing of fingers, instead of it's so pointless. I mean, and those of you out there, that is pointless. It's a pointless argument, and that's why I don't engage in it anymore. And so, removing these things from my life, my immediate life, like the very center of it, which is the surrounding of the people that I allow in my life, that has to be solid. That has to be encouraging. It can't come with little cuts and little slashes and little snide remarks followed by positive reinforcement. I mean, it's such bullshit. Such bullshit. It's so sick. It's not even funny. And we all deal with it with people in our life. And they seem to have a lot of people around them and that tolerate them. But I don't need that in my immediate. If they want to do that out there, that's fine. They want to do it on the outside circle. They want to do it out and talk shit and do their thing and be that way to other people, that's great. I don't have to tolerate it in my life. That's not how I'm going to respect myself. And we often think, well, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Well, they don't really care about you. And, they call you friend, they tell you they love you, and then they beat you down. Is that friendship? Is that love? Is that family? Is that... I can't see that. Because I don't do that to the people in my life, and I don't tear people down just because I can, or make snide remarks just because I can, or make unhealthy comments just because I'm hurt. Those things are put to rest, so I can't afford for it to be in the house anymore. This is basically, I'm going to keep going back to the house because, this is my temple, my sanctuary. And I'm starting to like it, starting to love it, starting to take care of it in a better way, starting to eat better. I eat avocados every day now. I've been eating avocados for a month. You couldn't barely get me to eat anything. Sorry, my screen just went dark. I think it's because of the sun. But so those are some of the things I learned. I'm back from Spain and Ireland. I have not fully processed what I need to do next with the coaching business, and how to move that forward, and then how to, have the podcast be self-sustaining so it's not so heavy on me every month, and then getting the foundation for helping people, getting that up and running. And then I have a potential for medicinal line, which is still on the table, still questioning, but at least I have access to that modality if somebody's interested. And then the other thing that's been put on my table that I never thought would be, and this is and I don't know what this looks like. Maybe I shouldn't mention that yet. Well, we'll just keep that under hat for right now. But it's not mine, but it would be helping somebody follow their dream that coincides or holds hands with similarly with what I am doing. I think that's a good sentence. I don't know. But so that's it for today. I just wanted to give an update. I have been off grid. Well, I don't really have good service, so I haven't been able to work, but I have needed to sit. I am refreshed, renewed, re-energized, struggling, at peace. Maybe that uncomfortableness, that little bit of uncomfortableness is good. I'm not sure yet. I don't know if I like it consistently because I've sat where it's gone, and that's just an indication that there's still some thought process behind that needs to be resolved, and some of that language needs to change behind it from my mouth and my mind. And so I guess that is my persona, my body language towards it, my language coming out of my mouth, the things that I let go through my head. Learning to sit with those, stop those, and not let those ugly things play in the playground anymore. And still lots of work to do. Suicide is still, but it's not the answer, it's the question now. Why is suicide the first answer? Why is anger the first answer? Why is shame the first answer? Pardon me. Those are the things I'm sitting with, because those are the things that keep coming to my doorstep when I get frustrated or upset, or is, why is this the only avenue? It's because I don't have language. I don't have language for these things that I struggle. I don't have language for suicide ideology. And it's that simple. That's why it's the first answer, because I don't have anything in between. And you can say, go from here to suicide really quick. And that's because I don't have any steps to have, and it's language. It's not tools. It's the language is the tool. I don't have any way to combat that from here to here. And I guess they would call that tools. You put tools in that little box or that bag or whatever. But I'm a carpenter. I see tools differently. So, and maybe that's it. I don't, there's this to this, and maybe that is, you don't have the tools in the right slots, or even though that you do, you're not putting them into practice in this place, and putting them in this category or this box that you're struggling with. And that's what I'm still sitting with, these things. Oh my God, that's huge. Holy crap. Yeah. No, brother, you big. That was a big spider. Big. I like spiders, but he is a big one. He's a fat monster. Scared me. But, so that's what I'm doing, is developing language from the things that I struggle with. So, and I think that's why I'm at peace, because the more language I develop for these things that I struggle with, and even though this language can coincide or overlap, that's better, overlap, for different problems, they still hold their own capacity of separate language. Like suicide is obviously, there's something there that's missing on the in-between. And even with worry and or not worry, but worthiness and loneliness, there's still some language missing. But as I sit with it, and as I develop that language, and as I ask myself the right question, what is your worth? And as I go through those scenarios, I just start to be honest. Well, it's not a description of yourself. It's not that you're nice or you're kind or you're outwardly things. It's what who are you? What are you? And it's not even a who are you. I know who I am now. I know what my true nature is. I know what that all is, and understand that. But worthiness, man, that's a tough one. Ask yourself that question. What are you worth? And if you're a Christian, or you believe in a God or a creator, you believe that God or creator or anything loves you, how much more could you love yourself based on that evidence? Because you would give that love to somebody else, and it's like, okay, so what is my worthiness? What is my worth? It's not the evidence I've been shown. It's not the rejection or the abandonment or the not being picked or people walking away. What is my worth? And only I can answer that. Only I can answer that question. And, I had this question for my friend the other day. I was like, I don't have language for it. And she was like, I lost my train of thought. I went through a whole story there in my head in about a split second on the worthiness. I don't have the language because I've never been validated as worthy. So am I just going to be lying to myself to make myself feel better? And so then ego, and is it humble, and all these things try to intrude and tell me a different story. So I started to just really sit with it and ask the right question. And as it became a description, I said, that's a description. That's not worth. That's a description of who you are, your capabilities. That's not your worth. Maybe that's monetarily of value, but I think that's what I discovered. And as I sat with that, I'm like, well, wisdom. This is the very thing that I've through suffering I've been given, because I can look at it, and I look at it well, and then I'm able to talk about that and articulate that. And although I discount that when people praise me in it, why should I not accept that? And maybe that's where I'm stuck. Maybe not really understanding my worth to people, to myself, is me standing in the way of my own potential. So that's where we're at. And I think that's a pretty good unpacking for that last part, since I hadn't really thought about that. But I guess that's kind of the beauty, right? You do this and talk therapy with the camera, assume that there's people watching. But I learned a ton on this trip. I met some beautiful people. I'll talk more about the Camino, who I met, how they impacted my lives. My lives. It's the multiple personalities. Hello. Hello. I'll tell some of my stories. And, I will tell you this, just a hint. I felt loved for the first time in my life. Not romantically. I felt seen and I felt loved for the first time in my life. And it cracked the ice. It didn't just crack the ice, it broke the ice. I mean, there's some massive flies out here. I'm a pain in the ass. And that's what's kind of, so my internal world that I built as a kid is collapsing at a rapid rate, and all these things are coming up, and I'm starting to realize that people and their reaction towards me it's not about me most of the time, 99% of the time, unless I go looking for it, which I generally don't go looking for it. But I mean, I do get in bad moods, but this is a whole different, I'm back, and so I don't know, this is a different realm for me. I've never been at this much peace. I've never even at being uncomfortable, I have not reacted in the ways that I react to people. I'm usually very aware of all of my emotion, and you can see it, you can sense it, you can feel it. And lately it's, even though I'm in a struggle, you can't see it. And my language towards people is surprising and upbeat and uplifting and comes with a smile. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? That's my other personality. You like him. But so I'm learning new things about the very nature of who I am. And I think that's the beautiful thing, going through this process and really learning to sit with myself. So if there's anything I could do to encourage somebody, would be to sit in meditation with the very thing that you're struggling with. And it's not the person or the thing, but the emotion that you're struggling with. Why do I feel this way about this situation? And then the next question is, why do I feel that way, feel this way about this part of this? And what does it invoke there? The big questions are why. And if you can start to learn to ask yourself those questions and be honest with yourself, you only have to be truthful with yourself. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll start to change. You'll start to come out of this. You'll start to look at things differently. And, these things that are very, very difficult for me, for instance, suicide, it may get the best of me, but not before I sit with it. I mean, maybe it's always an option. Maybe it's always in my life. Maybe it's always there, but at least I know how to sit with it now. At least I know how to be at peace with it. At least now I know that it can sit side by side and with me, and I can be devoid of anguish. And that's interesting. Interesting. Well, I think I'm gonna close it out with that. I just blew my own brain up. I was just because I didn't realize I was doing that. I didn't realize I was sitting with it in solitude. And I'm at peace with it being here. It may be because I don't believe it'll always be here. Well, that's new. So there you go. Grand finale. Anyway, thanks for joining me on the Suicide Monk. I appreciate you all. Thank you for those who have supported me financially, with prayers, with encouragement, and just those people that I met along the way and have become in part of my life and part of my story. So thank you very much. We'll see you on the good side. Peace.